Thank you all for joining us. This is a very special Zoom we're doing about the Tower Garden. How many of you ever wondered about the Tower Garden? What is it? How does it work? Well, you're going to find out tonight. Very privileged to have Mr. Henry Lee on with us. He and I have met several months ago, and I've really tapped into his resource expertise on the Tower Garden, and I want to have him share that with you tonight. I want to ask each of you to really take some good notes tonight, because the Tower Garden is a different look at what we do with regard to inspiring healthy living around the world. Henry's actually a native of Columbus, Ohio. He taught school there for 14 years in a number of different fields, so many I can't remember, so let me look. Human anatomy and physiology, chemistry, environmental sciences, and biology. He taught in the Dublin School District area, and he's now partnered with the Juice Plus Company and really become an expert. I call him an expert on the Tower Garden because he's understood from his educational background the application of the Tower Garden and how appropriate it is to help not only to fuel our healthy living, but to also allow us all to understand how the different subjects that he's taught and how it can be used as a teaching tool. So Henry, thank you very much for being with us. Welcome.
Well, thanks for having me, Jim. Just show of hands on your screen here. How many of you have heard of Tower Gardens before? Oh, good. Okay, so we have a few beginners, but for the most part, you've actually heard of Tower Gardens. So I'm going to assume that you don't know anything and start from scratch, just to be fair for those of you who are hearing about Tower Gardens for the first time. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen here. Give me a little thumbs up if you can see my screen. Good, awesome, all right. I'm gonna go ahead and put this in presentation mode. And as Jim said, I'm a native to Ohio, grew up here with my family, went to Ohio State University, go Bucks. Tower Gardens actually entered my life in two of the most unexpected avenues. The first was eHarmony, of all places, and second, a dental hygienist that works with heart attack patients walked into my classroom. And I'll go into that a little bit more later because I actually partnered with them a couple of years after I heard about these. And so if you haven't heard of Tower Gardens before, this is the tool that we're going to be talking about today and teaching you the ins and outs of what it does, how it works, and who's it for. As Jim pointed out, these Tower Gardens are very resourceful tools. There's all sorts of different resources and ways that you can learn about them. And this call tonight, we actually have several calls that are similar to it. Every Saturday, reoccurring, my good friends Beverly Grandinson and Johnny Grandinson, along with a few others, we present 8 o'clock on Saturday evenings. So we can certainly answer questions that you have there, or get back to the person that invited you to watch this recording or to this call today. So first of all, I wanted to dive into what is the reason why these Tower Gardens are so useful. Why even care about Tower Gardens? And this is one of the concepts that we teach in my classroom, is that this is what our farms are supposed to look like: a lush field of crops. Every year they're tended and very nutritious. But unfortunately, this is what's happening to all of our farmland. In every single country, we're over farming, whether we're trying to overturn the crop rotations and dousing them with chemicals. This is what happens. It's a concept called desertification, and our farmland is disappearing. So there was an initiative back in the 2000s, a deep space exploration actually, that NASA put out there: 2 years travel to Mars, 2-year mission on Mars, and 2 years back. And so, an instant like that, it's impossible to take 6 years worth of fresh produce. And so they start coming up with all sorts of different designs. And if you've ever been to Disney World, one of these designs is used in classrooms and airports and fire stations alike. And one of the things that we point out to the kids when we're teaching about hydroponic and aeroponic gardening, and I'll teach you the difference here in a second, is this is a very hands-on practical tool. And so instead of a classroom looking like this, you may recognize some of these behaviors from 50 years ago. In fact, this is one of the very few industries that if you walk into a classroom today, it looks exactly like it did 50 years ago. And so we're behind times. What if your classroom looked like this and your kids were not just sitting bored out of their minds in their desks, but up and about? One of our good friends, Dr. Stephen Ritz here in the back, this is what his classroom looks like in the Bronx, in the middle of an urban area of New York City. He has transformed one of the lowest performing, lowest attending schools into one of the top and not at risk anymore. And it's simply by using this tool. Some other positives that, especially coming from the classroom, and I know not all of you are educators, but looking at project-based learning for all ages, from daycares, elementary, middle school, high school, and all the way through college, not limited to the classroom, but because my specialty comes from the classroom, then I took a couple pictures here of some of our preschoolers and our elementary kids, and behind this here is our middle school kids. All sorts of different lessons that they can learn, from texture and taste to learning names of different species, photosynthesis, sustainability. The list goes on and on and on. And I'll show you some resources of where you can find some lesson plans. This is one of my favorite slides because it shows the difference between what tower gardens, what you can gain from tower gardens. It grows 3 times as fast because this is a little blast of the past for biology. Some of you, it's been a few years, but there's a process called photosynthesis. How many of you heard of photosynthesis before? Good. Okay, so instead of just learning about the formula for photosynthesis, what if we taught kids that plants need 3 simple ingredients? The first ingredient is water, and the only place where plants need water is really the roots. So the water pumps up the center console here, showers over the roots through a cascade system, and you don't have to worry about watering the leaves, the stems. It's really about watering the roots. So water, that's one. Second is carbon dioxide. And we have this unlimited amount of carbon dioxide everywhere, so that's not an issue. And then light. Well, the limiting factor is usually the water, because if you're growing crops outside, the water goes right over the roots, goes back into the ground, into the water table, and you lose about 98% of the water from that. Not to mention that it's not raining every day. And so that's why it grows 3 times as fast. Got a little time lapse for you, because I love teaching with visuals and videos. So I'm going to play this for you. Oh, it skipped. Okay, here we go. You know what, actually, I'm going to stop my screen share here because I forgot to hit the button that shares my audio. Okay, so here we go. See if this plays. Love that video there. If you are curious about finding that, you can actually find that on the Tower Garden official YouTube channel, or get in touch with the person who invited you to watch this recording. You might be asking, okay, so that's great that it grows faster, but how does it work and what are some of the other benefits? And so this is a short video to show you that. This is also available on the Tower Garden official YouTube channel. Yep. Let's see, ready, set.
Tower Garden's state-of-the-art aeroponic vertical garden system uses both water and air to produce more colorful, better-tasting, and incredibly nutritious fruits, vegetables, and herbs. Tower Garden has a 20-gallon reservoir at its base that stores the Tower Tonic nutrient solution. Developed by experts in plant and human nutrition, Tower Tonic Mineral Blend enables superior plant growth and better nutrition from your Tower Garden produce. The process begins once the seedlings have been placed in your Tower Garden. Here they will be nourished with Tower Tonic nutrient solution. Inside the reservoir is a small, low-wattage submersible pump. The pump pushes the nutrient solution up through the tower to the top. From there, the nutrient solution drips through the central tower using a special device that evenly cascades the solution over the exposed plant roots. On the journey down the tower, the nutrient solution feeds the roots and becomes highly oxygenated as it cascades gently down the reservoir. This process is continuous, providing fresh oxygen, water, and nutrients to the roots of the plants. This patented aeroponic process enables food crops to grow faster than they would in soil, so they can be harvested more often. And it makes Tower Garden the healthier, easier, smarter way to grow your produce.
All right, so just to sum up what they said on that video, it grows 3 times as fast, gives you 30% more yield on average for crops, uses 90% less space because it's vertical, and up to 98% less water because all the water that passes over the roots gets recycled back in the basin, pumped right back up that center console. I love this. These benefits are not just for classrooms, they're for homes, they're for nonprofits and community centers, Boys and Girls Clubs of America. They grow year-round, indoors with lights, because there is a full spectrum LED lights that are indestructible. You can have pets and kids grab them. They don't overheat and they don't break. It doesn't use any soil, so there's no weeding, no mulching. All of the mineral blends that you put in, both A and the B, it's very easy to measure out, and they are pure, mined by the company, proprietary. It's clean, it's food grade plastic, and it pays for itself in about 6 months. And I'll show you the price breakdown for that as well. You also might be wondering, okay, so what are some of the other benefits? Show of hands, how many of you remember your lunch is looking like this? So you might remember getting a bagel pizza at lunch with a bunch of leftover sausage from the previous day and an applesauce container that's probably been on the shelf for 2 years and has a bunch of preservatives and dyes. And that milk in there, don't get me started on or inflammatory properties of dairy, but maybe you were lucky and you got this pizza with a little bit of granola. Who knows what kind of preservatives and stale stuff is in there, and maybe a little cup of iceberg lettuce that doesn't really have any nutrients. And let's be honest, how many kids threw that away, right? So what if your lunches look like this? And that's what we're doing in schools, is we can connect teachers with grants to get these Tower Gardens in their classrooms for free. They can use them not only in the biology and the environmental science classrooms like we do at our school, but also in the kitchen, in global gourmet foods and fitness classes business classes, special ed classes, and they're on wheels, they're on dollies. So you can wheel them all over the class or all over the school. And it's not just used for one set of students, you can use it for the entire school. You might be asking, okay, so this is great and all, but what can I actually grow? And so these are just a couple examples of the different produce that you can grow on it. You can see most of the stuff at the top is going to be small. Some of them are microgreens, cilantro and chives and basil, arugula. You go down towards the bottom and you get some pretty big lettuces, but it's not just isolated to lettuces. In fact, over on the right-hand side, you might have to move some of the pictures of people on the Zoom call in order to see this side over here. But you can grow big pieces of fruit. And yes, these are fruit. For those of you who don't know the differences, it's the reproductive part that has seeds. So cucumbers and beans and peppers and tomatoes and zucchinis are actually fruit. You can grow these more, they grow a little better when they are outdoors because the ones on the bottom here are flowering plants, which means that they do require pollination. If you grow them inside, which we do over at our school, then you or your students behave as little bees. And they simply take toothbrushes or paintbrushes and go from flower to flower to flower. And so it's another fun activity that they do. There's a couple other pictures of different tower gardens just to give you some idea. I'm not going to go through all of them, but look at this. You can even put eggplant and tomatoes and squash and broccoli. Some people have even figured out how to grow root vegetables like carrots and radishes and onions. Don't ask me how. I've never actually done that. I stick to the ones that are above ground. Another benefit of these is, there's a lot of, especially inner city, urban areas, food pantries, they're not the most nutritious. There are tons of sodium in these cans. So instead of feeding people in the city with canned foods, then, and especially kids, because really it's the cravings of kids start when they're young. In fact, Ohio State University and Cornell University both did a study that showed that kids that grow their own food actually have 5 times more likelihood to eat it rather than buying it from the store and putting it on their plate. And so it doesn't just stop there. This is one of my favorite concepts because as a teacher, my hope is that I don't just teach them concepts for the test on Friday that they're going to forget, but they take this home and are able to actually transform their lives into something that is going to be passed on from generation to generation to generation. And so we teach the concept of you are what you eat. Show of hands, how many of you heard this phrase before? You are what you eat. Okay, so this is one of my favorites because I don't think we understand the magnitude of this cliche because we treat it as such, just a cliche. What you put in your mouth literally turns into you. So when you think about how little you were as a baby to the size that you are today, all of that mass came from literally what you put into your mouth. And so what you put in your mouth becomes you, and it feeds all the microbiome, the good bacteria that's inside of your gut, and literally changes your cravings because your gut bacteria communicates to your brain chemically, telling it, feed me more of this. And so again, if we start young with the kids, teaching them the power of nutrition, then these kids grow up and they pass it on to their next generation because they chemically crave fruits and vegetables. I told you before that we were going to take a look at the cost analysis because that's a question that everyone asks. So, folks, here it is. If you break down that tower garden, this is what you get. Over here on the left, these are conventional prices. And the conventional price of arugula, of bell peppers, of chard and cherry tomatoes, and etc. We've taken those and then we've compared it to how much of that produce is going to be produced on the tower garden and then mapped out what is the total savings. So if you look down at the bottom of this page, you'll see in a 6-month yield, you end up getting about $800 worth of produce. Now, that is even better quality and value because you're not just getting conventional sprayed with pesticides and herbicides. You control what you put on your tower garden. So all of these money savings that are indicated on the right-hand column are actually better than conventional. So it's more nutritious, more nutrient dense, it's cleaner, and it doesn't travel thousands of miles before it gets to your table. In fact, we love using the phrase tower to table because the word local means in general that the food has traveled anywhere from 100 to 400 miles. That means I'm here in Columbus, Ohio. And if a local tomato is on the shelf over here at the store, that means it could have been grown in Chicago and still travel to Columbus and be considered local. So super, super nutritious and not even local. It's literally picked off the vine ripened. And there's a couple different ways that you can do that. We have 2 different models. For those of you that have been with Juice Plus and Tower Gardens for a while, this is something called the Flex. And you'll see the basin is a little bigger at the bottom. It's a 20-gallon basin. It's called the Flex because it is customizable. It's flexible indoors, outdoors. You can put a tomato cage on it. You can put a dolly. You can throw lights on the top. You can throw extensions all the way to the ceiling and make it 2 stories tall. The Tower Garden home is about 1 year in the making. So back in January of 2020, they came out with this smaller version. It's a 2-foot instead of a 3-foot. And the Tower Garden home is more ergonomic. It looks like it fits into a kitchen or a living room. It already has the casters built onto it. The lights are interchangeable between both of these models. You can put this one outside, but it has to be on a flat surface because those casters are built into the base. They do have different numbers of the large plants and the small plants. In fact, this one has 16 large plots and 16 microgreens. So just note that if you are sharing tower gardens, then there is a difference between the size of the slots. The standard Flex comes with 5 stacks of 4, so that's a total of 20 large plots, no microgreens, but you can get microgreen extensions for that. If you order 1 tower garden, and I asked you guys before, how many of you heard of tower gardens? Show of hands, how many of you actually have one? Or like Chef Jeff, have one on the way? Congratulations. Then your tower garden arrives with all of these stacks in the barrel, in the water basin down below. So it comes very, very compact. You'll get both the nutrient solution A and B. It comes with all of the seeds to start you out with for the year, the rock wool to plant that in, a little sand material called vermiculite to make sure that those seeds stay in the rock wool. It comes with timer, the pump, a pH adjuster, and a little grow kit in case you don't have a pan to start your seedlings off. And in a matter of a month, this is what's growing in your living room. But some people go big or go home. So this is what we ended up getting. We ended up getting a science bundle, also known as a family garden. And we got all the bells and whistles for our kids. And so it's called a family garden because you can customize it and it'll feed your entire family. You can see on this one, there are edible flowers like marigolds, nasturtium, which also deter aphids. You can treat these with organic pesticides and herbicides like essential oils or neem oil. And as you can see here, these have a huge variety of rainbow and Swiss chard down to the bottom with tons of peppers and tomatoes. But we don't stop there because some of us love to go even bigger. So 12 tower gardens is considered a community garden. And anything above 12, then you start working with home office down in Tennessee, and that is called a tower farm. So I'm going to show you where you can find these tower farms, because some of you may not be aware, but tower farms are actually located all over the planet. This is a map that shows you that most of the tower farms are here in the US, but they are also in Spain. They're in Dubai in the middle of the desert. They have domes of these with dozens of them that Dr. Stephen Ritz is working with in Dubai, so they can grow 2-story tower gardens in the middle of the desert. I was originally going to be taking off on a flight to Hawaii tomorrow and taking a look at the tower farms over here in Hawaii, Alaska, up in Canada. And again, these are growing by the day. And these are just locations where you can find over a dozen tower gardens in a single location. I'm just going to go ahead and click on one of these here. Yep. Okay, so this one's one of my favorites. Tower gardens have been around for about 10 years now, and O'Hare Airport was one of the first to adopt these. There are 26 2-story tower gardens in Terminal 2. So next time you fly through Chicago in O'Hare Airport, stop by the terminal in Terminal 2. On the second floor, you'll find a massive garden that the 67 restaurants, including Max and Irma's and TGI Fridays, use the produce. And if you eat a salad there, then you're going to eat some of the produce from our tower gardens. There are also other places that use tower gardens, and I'm going to play a short video for you here. This is a place that I work with here in Columbus called Kemper House of Worthington. It's an Alzheimer's and dementia assisted living.
Conditions. Dan, talk to us a little bit about this wonderful.
The Kemper find a
Oh, doesn't seem like it's coming through. We'll give it a couple more seconds to buffer.
plant of the building itself.
Okay, I'll tell you what. I'm going to go ahead and mute the volume here, and I'll go ahead and narrate it for you. This was a news special that was put on to Channel 4 because Kemper House is doing some really revolutionary things with nutrition. They're seeing some massive reversal of effects with nutrition, and they try to grow everything as organic and local as possible. And so you'll see here, next year, we actually do activities with the residents where they plant, they transfer, they build, and so it becomes a social activity within this community of many of whom used to love gardening and still do, but they're not physically capable of doing that on their own anymore. And so this is an opportunity that they have in order to grow something of the past right in their residence. So I'm going to stop that video there and show you a couple other resources. This is, if you go to, you go back to the person who invited you to this call here, then they'll show you this website that has all sorts of different classroom resources, including lesson plans. So under number 6, not just the support, but you'll also get all the free lesson plans for all ages. So if you're wondering, all right, how do I speak to classroom teachers? These are all the resources that you can literally just hand them, and they can download it and they can use it, all standards-based, all across the US. The last thing I want to show you here is just a sample of the magnitude of which you can find these tower farms and the support that you can gather. This is a place called True Gardens in Mesa, Arizona. It's a suburb of Phoenix, and many people don't know that the hundreds of tower gardens in True Gardens actually provide a lot of the produce for the city of Phoenix. And you can go to this website, truegarden.com. If you have a tower garden yourself, they have started using coconut husk instead of rock wool. And they'll show you the benefits of that in all the different seedlings down at the bottom 2 videos. These are great videos to share. They're great videos to inform yourself, to educate yourself. And I tell you, they are some of the 2 most impressive videos about tower gardens that I've ever seen made out there. So I am going to stop my screen share. Oh, I can find that button here. Some reason, Jim, for some reason it's not allowing me to stop here. Are you able to take that back? Oh, here we go.
All right, good.
There we go.
All right, so Henry, that was awesome. You know, some of the resources that Henry talked about are available to each of you. Again, the best thing is to get back with the person that asked you onto the Zoom, find out more about it. We've got tremendous learning tools. Being an educator as Henry is, he knows about resources. And the more you find out about the ways that tower garden can be used, the more ideas you can have about using that yourself. It really fits right in. Carrie and I were part of the business actually when the tower garden came out about 7 or 8 years ago. And our company actually sent one to each of us. And we've all had about 7 or 8 years experience with the tower. And I tell you, it's really transformed the way we look at food. So those of you that have a tower, Henry has really enhanced the way you can consider using it yourself and sharing with other people. And know that you don't have to be an expert. We know many people, Henry and I have laughed about this. We know many people that said, I couldn't grow anything and now I can't control the produce that I'm growing. So it's a tremendous way to enhance someone's life, starting with yourself. You know, we have a phrase, you don't sell tower garden, you get it, you grow it, and you show it. Because all you have to do is show it and people are going to want one. Jeff, you're evidence of that. You went into Danny's place and here it was, right? And here you are ordering one. So it's a great opportunity for each of you to learn how you can improve your own diet, improve your own health. Henry, thank you very much for being with us. And I'm sure we're going to have you back at some time in the future. All right, folks, I'm going to try to unmute everybody. In fact, unmute yourself and let's thank Henry for being with us tonight.
Thank you, Henry.
Thanks, Henry.
Thank you, Henry.
Thank you.
Great
presentation, Henry.
Very helpful.
Congratulations.
Welcome,
Thanks, y'all.
welcome. Thank you for spending the night with us, guys.
Could you share that number for the Saturday night?
Yeah, absolutely. Are you with Jim and Carrie?
Yes.
Yes, she's part of the Key Punching group.
I'll go ahead and pass that on to Jim so he can get that to you. But every Saturday evening at 8 p.m. Eastern time.
Okay.
7 Central. It's a great Zoom. Very lively. Very lively.
We were looking for that registration you're doing there. Alrighty, thanks a lot.
Yeah. Thank you all for being on with us.
Thank you.
And happy Thanksgiving, Henry. Thank you, partner.
Yeah, happy Thanksgiving.
Thank you. Happy Thanksgiving.